Howdy, folks. I don't know who's more miserable this afternoon. Myself after having a root canal done, or Russ Cohen after the Mets get bitch slapped by the New York Yankees. Who is it? Who is it, Anthony? You can be the arbiter.
I don't know. You're pretty cranky right now, Michael.
but that's my usual MO. Russ is always Mr. Happy, Mr.
Not after a Yankee loss, no.
Hey, Ak, how's it going?
Oh, it's going well. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Which is though, so just before the show, yesterday I was all psyched to talk to you guys. Something came up, and that really was good, but it was horrible because you guys did a great job. That wasn't why it was horrible. Anyway, no, you guys did a great job. So no, but today I'm all set. I'm all ready to go. And then at like 12:55, I hear what sounds like the wrath of God, like we're being invaded by aliens. I go outside and one of our big tree branches is blown over and it's leaning on top of our wires that lead all the electricity to the house. And it's fine. I mean, it hasn't, so far everything's working fine in here, but I just had to properly notate what was going on and call the authorities and get them out here. So if for any reason the power shuts off on me, you'll just know. So that's why we're a little bit late today. Sorry about that.
From a panel of 4, it would all of a sudden become a panel of 3.
Completely a panel of 3, which will be perfectly fine. But yeah, I'm psyched to be back. It was a great week of vacation. I had the best time in Southern Florida. I've never really spent that much time in the Miami area before. Some beautiful areas around there. Really crazy expensive to live there. I would never. Even just like the hotel we checked in, we got a really cheap rate on the hotel, and this is pretty funny, a little quick story. So we got a really cheap rate on the hotel through Travelocity, so it was basically almost nothing. And I come in, and but it was a really nice hotel. So I won't mention the name of them because they were we had our run-ins with them. But throughout the week we were there. For what thing? Do they know that we're paying less or something like that? That's my question.
Of course they know. Listen, as a guy in the hotel industry, it's the same as the airline industry. You could be sitting next to Anthony, and both you guys pay different rates. It's the same in the hotel industry. They fill up at certain rates, and then they go to the next rate. And so, yes, if you were able to slip through the cracks, of course you paid less than possibly the person next door.
I paid less, but do they?
They know. Oh no, they know.
So I feel like I was treated that way the entire time.
I think it's a new thing. I will tell you this. No, X-Right. I was watching Hard Knocks, the HBO series, and I saw something that I really didn't like, and I felt like football players, because they stay in hotels for long stretches of time, were more susceptible to this. Marriott, of all companies, went up to one of the players at the front desk. They said, hey, if you don't want maid service, we'll give you like 1,000 Marriott points. And the guy goes, really? And I'm thinking, seriously, is this like a negotiating point now so Marriott can save on maid service? To me, as a former hotel guy, it's despicable. I don't like it.
Well, it's funny, Russ, because I'm listening to WFAN this morning, getting the insightful analysis of Joe Beningo and Evan Roberts on the Mets-Yankees game, and a commercial comes up regarding some travel agency that's booking flights from New York to Naples, and the price of the flight was $650. And I'm saying, was the seat on the wing? Because that's the only way I can see flying to Europe for $650.
I thought we were talking Naples, Florida.
No. We're talking Naples, Italy.
Italy, $650?
Yes.
You're in cargo.
Yeah, you are.
You're great.
Taking half of it by plane and half of it by ship. You're going to fly to Reykjavik, Iceland, and then take a ship from there. That's my bet. No, so I get there, and we're hungry. It's been a long day of traveling. We flew it. Our flight took off at 6 a.m, which to my wife means arriving 6 p.m. the evening before. So we are easily 12. No, my wife is ridiculous with arriving early for flights. So we got there at like 3 a.m, and which is really, and so we're tired. By the time we get to the hotel, and it's a beautiful hotel, and they show us our room, which is, it's the cheapest room they've got, but it's still a nice old hotel, very famous hotel, was a World War II hospital, all this stuff. Anyway, so they have the largest pool in the continental U.S. for a hotel, and it is absolutely beautiful. That was like the best part of it. But so they said, would you like to join us for the brunch? We have a world famous brunch, and I'm thinking that sounds perfect. We're really hungry. We're tired. We've arrived. It's about noon, 1 o'clock, somewhere in there. and they say, well, just to warn you ahead of time, the brunch is $99 a person.
What?
All right. So $99 a person for brunch. Like I looked at my wife. We're like, that's like what we're paying for the entire week at this hotel practically.
Yeah, you sound like when my wife and I went to Moscow last year. We stayed at the Hotel Metropole and next to Red Square, and they're known for their like breakfast, just ridiculous breakfast. But it was like not 99, but it was up there. I mean, it was almost the cost of the room. I was like, no.
That is the most absurd thing. So then I go to use the ATM in the lobby, because I need to get some cash out because I have to, I figure I probably have to pay them $10 every time I speak to them. So I grab out, get some cash out. The ATM says, sure, we can do that for you. There would be a service charge of $10.50. I'm like 10. I've seen 3. I've even seen 5. 10. I've never seen 10.
There is a level of gouging now going on in the business world that's really tough.
Yeah, there is a good brunch over at Bob Evans next door.
Yeah, so the irony of this, is it's right within walking distance of 2 blocks of a Publix, which is a supermarket.
Yes.
In the South, that serves that you can buy anything from.
It's a great chain. I love Publix. Whenever we stay down in Florida, that's all we go to.
They're in California, they're in Florida, and there you can get great food and a bottle of really good wine for $15, right? So it's like the rest of the week we lived at the Publix and just walked back and sat by the hotel by the pool, which was fun, but it was insane. Oh, so the final thing, Russ, this is the final thing I have to throw. This is really good one. So last night we've had a long day. It was a really crazy last day. I don't even want to get into that, but just so we're staying there, and my wife, she likes her vodka once in a while. Like she's a vodka drinker, so she's like she sees a double cross vodka in there, which is really like a good kind of vodka. If you like vodka, I mean I don't drink, so I don't know, but she has this. So I call down. I'm like, yeah, why not? We'll call down. I just want to, because we look on the little thing. It says $12 for the little thing. I'm like, that's a lot, but whatever. It's like, all right. This last night here, we've been standing in the rain for a while. Okay, this is fine. So I call down to the front desk and I say, just to make sure that this is exactly $12, right? Like I'm not going to be hit with something else for this. Says, I'll find out for you. So they call me back 20 minutes later, unable to tell me exactly how much it cost.
Well, because it's $12 for the vodka, but then there's going to be like a service fee.
Oh yeah, they said we'd love to tell you, but we called the bar.
But it's $600 for the shot glasses.
Exactly.
And no one knows what that thing costs. And I said, well, you have it in your bar. I mean, you surely must charge people for it all the time. Yes, but we don't know what it costs. I said, well, I'm going to pay $12 for it. I'm going to go on record as saying that right now. Since we don't know, I'm going to.
I'd be like, I'll give you $12 cash.
Right. So I did. And then next morning I'm checking out $48.
Honestly, I swear, I've been in many hotels over a great number of years. I have never taken anything out of a mini bar. Nothing unless it was something that was open, like sugar packets for my coffee. I have never eaten or taken anything from anything inside of a hotel room ever, because they will milk you for the last cent that you have in your friggin' pocket.
Look, I have if it's reasonable, but I think we're going back to the days now where like my grandfather would go to the Catskills and he would open up this little like square piece of luggage, and it was like martini glasses and booze and everything, and he would have like a bar set up, and I used to look at him thinking like, Grandpa, that's really cheap, but I never said it to him.
No, but you understand now.
Now I understand.
I marched down 6 o'clock in the morning again. Our flight's really early, so it's like our flight's at 10 or whatever. I marched down to the desk with my $48 bill for my thing that was under my door in the middle of the evening. And I go down to them and I say, I called down last night to ask about this, and they said it was $12, and then they couldn't figure out what it was. So I said, I'm going to pay $12. Is that okay? And they said, well, you'll have to talk to people in the morning. And I said, I'm going to pay $12. Is that okay? And they said, you'll have to talk to people in the morning. I said, so we took it, and we're going to pay $12 for it. I said, then that's it. And I gave him cash, like you said, Russ. Here's $12 in cash, which I didn't take out of the ATM because then it would be $22. So I took $12 in cash. All right, so. Yeah, so that was fine, and so far I haven't seen. I'm still expecting to get charged the rest of it at some point on my bill.
Yeah, you'll see it.
Anyway, let's get started. But that was my I tell you, like
it's South Florida. That's what it is. All I know is I was going to take an Uber from the hotel that during the draft down in Fort Lauderdale in Sunrise. I was going to take an Uber to meet Russ and Anthony out the Thursday before the NHL draft, and the Uber was $45, and I'm like, wait a second. And I canceled it. And luckily there was a shuttle going from the hotel downtown where they were, and I got there for like $10, which was fine. But it had to be the most expensive Uber in the history of Uber. Wow. So it's South Florida. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the amount of gorging that's going on is insane. So it was. It sounded like Baltimore, but it wasn't. Hotel I stayed at. So that will tell you that much. Anyway, moving on to the next thing. Let's start the show, should we?
Let's do it.
All right, ready?
Anthony, follow me.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right. It's the 15th, correct? Yes.
It's Will Butcher Day.
We reached halfway through this god-awful month of August. All right, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, August 15th, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Anthony Mingioni.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And apparently I was part of some sort of conspiracy theory yesterday because I got the Bruins fans all up in my grill, and Bruins writers even. So I wanted to go through the really quickly before we go too much further into this. I wanted to go through the Pastrnak chain of events and the rumors that followed what's happening there. And I sort of did it on my blog, but I'll go through it a little bit now as well. Because it's interesting, and there's no question. The one thing I really did realize is, man, oh man, are the Bruins fans have some baggage in their closets about things. They are really not into the idea of another star player or potentially star player being moved out of there. This is not. It's funny. Different fan bases are different. Like when the Claude Giroux rumors circulate and all that stuff, it's not happening here, but it's like I don't get the same thing. Get nearly like a tenth of the ire. And I never wrote Drew was getting, but I wouldn't even online that you wouldn't read half the ire of that this really, and it wasn't just me, thankfully this time, Brian Lawton jumped on it as well a couple hours later, and said what I'm hearing is I would not be surprised if David Pastrnak of the Bruins is traded, contract problems, and he wrote that. So that was like 3 hours after my post, and then Joe Haggerty jumped in 2 hours after that. And said, despite the rumors, Bruins currently have no appetite to trade David Pastrnak. They should be committed. They should be committed if they did. That was Haggerty's tweet. And that's basically how Bruins fans felt about this. And it all made me, it made me think a couple things. First of all, we like to talk about like sometimes the anatomy of rumors on the show. We haven't done it for a while, but how these things get going, like how I find out about something or how somebody else finds out about something. I mean, Lawton, remember, is you always have to follow sort of who knows who, and you have to sort of know in your mind those connections. And someday I would love to write a book when everybody's retired about these connections because it's fascinating to me. But so what does Brian Lawton know? Brian Lawton works for the NHL Network. He used to be a player agent, and he of course was a GM before that and a player, first pick overall. So Brian has connections through all different aspects of things. He's been the agent, he's been the general manager. Brian is very connected, and is in fact I think one of the better insiders out there. And you really have to follow all the insiders to see that Brian doesn't just put stuff out very often, but when he does, he's often close or really close to something that's happening because he probably knows the agents involved. It's probably the reality of it more than the teams because the agents really do stick together. And he might know some of the players, but he was the first person to link Shattenkirk to the Capitals last year, like 2 days before it actually happened. So I buy what Brian and now the stuff I was hearing came from both sides of this, one from out in Los Angeles, one from the New England area. Now, the New England area, we know that Pastrnak's involved in a heavy contract dispute right now. That's what we're going to talk about when we ask you guys what Pastrnak's worth, which is the next question. But so if I was to get something just from the Boston area during this period of time, which is kind of common, I would then think, well, this is just the Bruins maybe trying to get Pastrnak to take less, and because he doesn't want to be traded, he likes it in Boston. And so they're going to leak out there that, hey, we'll trade you if we can't sign you. And that's typical. But it wasn't just the Bruins. It was also coming out in Los Angeles, which reminded me a lot of the Jonathan Duran stuff, which came way before he was actually, we knew how bad things were with Durant. So those are the important things to remember in how this plays out. And sometimes teams will put stuff out. I'm not saying the Bruins put this out. I'm not saying it came from the Bruins, but sometimes teams will put stuff out to get a temperature on it. And it can backfire on them. And if the Bruins did, if the Bruins were responsible, because I wasn't getting mine directly from the Bruins, but if they were responsible for leaking it to the person that I was getting mine from, the Bruins made a mistake, because you really don't want to get the crowd, the Boston crowd riled up in this. And they actually gave Pastrnak probably more leverage than they wanted to, more than the opposite, because trading him, I don't think it's going to be that easy, even though he's a great player. So Pastrnak, what is he worth? I mean, he's a 34 goal scorer, right? Last year had a really good year.
His first really good year.
First really good year, but he is extremely young. Remember, he came into
the 21.
He's played 3 years already, right? And he's only 20, only just turned 21.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, he has speed to burn. Obviously, has moments when he looks fantastic. In the playoffs last year, he looked really average. But so did all the Bruins. I mean, the loss to Ottawa was a bad one. So, but as far as the Bruins go, probably their best hope for the future, quote unquote, if you want to talk about points or goal scoring, right? So is he worth, is he, now the fear right now, of course, is, with Draisaitl's contract being negotiated, that we're going to compare Pastrnak to Draisaitl.
You can't. I mean,
a tough time. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, go ahead, Anthony.
For me, I mean, because the thing we're still with Pastrnak, coming in, the amount of years he's had it already. I felt he came in. He looked really good when he first came into the league, but I kind of felt like it was a little early for him. But he still came in when he did. But again, it does come down to the whole center versus wing thing, and I do believe the tough part for me, because I think Draisaitl will end up as a center, which is one of the reasons why his contract will probably end up extrapolating higher than Pasternak's will. But what he's worth. I mean, I'm not sure he's Patrick Laine level. I'm not sure we're quite there with him in terms of overall impact for the Bruins. But if you were to deal several picks, I would say several picks in return, probably just a couple high picks, and a forward that you feel has the capability of replacing somewhat of the offense that he provided last year. 34 goals is nothing to sniff at for a 21-year-old. Right. I agree with that completely. And I mean, he is young. The $7 million number now is like the big number for this tier of players. It feels like, okay, you're looking at Tarasenko and Draisaitl in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not paying Pastrnak in that money. I'm giving him the Nikita Kucherov deal. Exactly. I'm going to go to him and say, hey, you know what? This is what Tampa did with Kucherov. This is what we're going to do with you. Because like Mike and I talked about it yesterday, I'm not paying him more than Marchand and Bergeron. Let those contracts go down the road a little bit. And then if you continue to score 34 goals and get 70 points, then we'll talk about even a higher number. But you know what? Right now, and I'm high on Pastrnak. I remember when he first played against the Flyers. I remember him in the draft. He's improved a lot, but he still has holes in his game. It's not a perfect game. He was playing with some really good talent. That helped him get to 70 points. Is he going to get more than 34 goals in his career? I don't know about that. That could be a career high for him. Like that's a scary number there, because he could get to 80 points in a season. He's not a 100-point guy. If I look at Draisaitl's got way better vision, and he's more of a playmaker. Pastrnak has playmaking ability, but he is, to me, more of a scorer.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if you put them side by side, Draisaitl had a bad or spotty rookie year, and then second year he comes out and he's not all world, but pretty close to it, and has a great playoff for Edmonton. Pastrnak, he played half a year in the AHL in his first year, and then 27 points in 46 games. That probably balances out to about a 50-point season.
And he did bounce around the lineup. He did.
Right. And that's as a 19-year-old. As a 20-year-old, I believe he had an injury. In 51 games, he had 15 goals, 11 assists, So that's 26 points. That equals out to close to 50 points again. And then he has the big year, 34 goals, and he plays 75 games. I'm sorry. If you're the Bruins, if you're Don Sweeney, this is an opportunity to get this guy locked up on a long-term deal for less than what you would get him locked up for if he goes on a bridge deal. This is PK Subban all over again. You risk signing him for 2 or 3 years at a low salary, and if he repeats this again, he's going to beat you over the head with it. So I'm sorry. If I'm Boston, I'm trying to get him locked up long-term, and stop quibbling. Give him the 6.5, give him the 7, and get it over with.
You know what my problem is? I'll give it to Draisaitl over him because Draisaitl makes players better. If I'm paying $7 million or more, then I'm hoping you're one of those players that make players better. Pasternak's really not that player. He's a very talented player, but he's the kind of guy that needs somebody to help elevate his game. And sometimes he'll score on his own. I don't take that away from him, but he's not going to make guys better around him. I can't all of a sudden move Pastrnak to a different line and put him with anybody like a Sidney Crosby and still get those results. I don't think that's going to happen with him, and that's why I can't give him that money.
So do you think Pastrnak is basically, the latter-day version of Phil Kessel? Because that's what you're describing as sort of a complimentary.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think he is similar to Phil. He's got better speed than Phil, although Phil's speed is pretty good now. I mean, it is pretty underrated. Phil might even have a better shot, but I think there's a lot of things that are similar.
I think Phil's a better shot. I do think that.
Yeah.
But I like Pasternak's game. I think he's very explosive. He is exactly what you want to see. He's what the Bruins need. I mean, the Bruins need scoring very badly. Their guys are getting older. And unfortunately, in this situation, like I don't see him at the Draisaitl, Tarasenko, and I guess you put Patrick Laine in there at 2 in that world. Maybe Laine is an $8 million player or something like that, and these guys are $7 million players. I don't know. It's so hard to say.
You have to consider this also, in terms of comparables. Bobby Ryan's making over $7 million. Rick Nash is making over $7 million. So when you compare Pastrnak, who's 21 years old, to the production and where these guys are in their careers, I have no problem giving Pastrnak $7 million compared to what Bobby Ryan is contributing or what Rick Nash is contributing now.
But you're comparing them to bad contracts that we already know are bad contracts.
Right, and that were signed a very long time ago. So that's the tough thing about that, right? So, but you're right. But there's something to it in terms of, okay, Bobby Ryan's contract actually wasn't signed that long ago, I guess. But Bobby Ryan's is an interesting one, and it does kind of go to my next point, which is the Senators had to give Bobby Ryan a lot of money. Pastrnak has the Bruins in the same way. That they're going to have to, I think, go over $7 million for him because of where they are. I think that's what's going on.
I think what this is sort of this internal salary cap battle that happened with Colorado a couple years ago, where Matt Duchene was the highest paid guy at $6 million, and you couldn't pay Ryan O'Reilly over $6 million because the organization was saying Ryan O'Reilly's better or Matt Duchene's better, so we can't pay you more. Well, no. It's when they come up for free agency and how the players have played. And if you look at them, they've got the ridiculous Krejci deal, which he's making over $7. And then you have Bergeron and Marchand, who are their 2 best forwards, making in the high 6s. If Krejci wasn't there, I think there would be absolutely no problem with them getting Pastrnak signed. But because they have that deal and it's onerous, they're having to have they're trying to force Pastrnak into a bridge deal. And I think what all this rumor is basically them trying to get him. If you don't sign, we're going to trade you. They're trying to get him on a bridge deal. They're trying to get him to take lower, and that's what this is. At least that's what I think it is.
Yeah, I agree with Mike with that. To me, it sounds, again, you're basing a guy who's getting great production, 34 goals. But again, it's a season where we've got 34 goals. Now, he's got elements of his game that are nicely rounded, as Russ indicated, and there's areas of his game that still have holes. So you are hesitant to go that high at $7 million per season. Or at least in terms of a really long-term commitment in this circumstance. So I don't think the Bruins are necessarily in the wrong for offering if that's what they're looking for, to do a bridge deal, to try to get to that point and figure out things with Krejci later to give Pastrnak the bigger deal later on down the line.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's fair. I think that's good. I think that as this plays out, we're going to really test a lot of this not wanting to be like Chiarelli thing that we've always thought about. You know, like to me that there was always Chiarelli was one way, and Sweeney and Neely had such a tough time with Chiarelli that they've done so much to be opposite of him in every which way. And now they're sort of put in a spot like Chiarelli was put into when he signed Krejci, which is kind of the same kind of thing. So you're in the same sort of bind. And I don't think Krejci's the guy they're comparing him to as much as Marchand, who's more, you know, he's the $6.5 million player somewhere in there. Can you pay him?
I think 6'8" or something like that.
Yeah, can you pay him more than Marchand?
Had to play probably 4 or 5 seasons before he got that money.
Right.
Marchand is 6.1, but he got the 8 years. That's what it was.
Right, but how many years did it take for him to get that?
Right. I think he went through at least one bridge deal, maybe a second one.
Correct.
But what this is Boston. This is the post Tyler Seguin trade Bruins. You gave up a franchise cornerstone, and you didn't get anything for it. You've done it twice because you traded Kessel because you didn't want to pay him the money. Now, they don't regret that because they got Seguin, but then they turned around 2 years after that or 3 years after that and traded Seguin and got nothing for it. So
you got to get back to Thornton too, as well, if you want to go far enough back.
Yeah.
You know,
so I mean,
add that to the mix too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of history there in Boston with that.
Here's the thing. You look at Pastrnak and say, look what the Rangers avoided with Chris Kreider, because he had an amazing year. He definitely put some pressure on to get a lot of money. Right now, Chris Kreider's making $4 million. I think Pasternak's a little better than Kreider, but I don't think he's $3 million better than Kreider.
Yeah. No, I think that's true.
But that's not factoring in one thing, Russ. Kreider's deal how many unrestricted years did that buy? If you're talking about signing Pastrnak for 6 or 7 years, he's going to be a UFA at 25 years old. If you sign him for 6 years, you're buying 2 or 3 years of unrestricted free agency, and that, you know, for a guy who, you know, I'm looking at him and saying, okay, I think he's going to be a 25 to 30 goal scorer every year, barring injury. You know, that's market value. That's what you have to pay.
I need to see more.
So this all things get from better to worse with Boston, because they also had another loss today, that they lost their radio play-by-play guy. Their radio play-by-play guy is Dave Gosher, who is now going to be the new TV play-by-play guy for the Vegas Golden Knights. So he's going out there to work with him along with Shane Knighty.
The sheriff?
Yep, he's going to be the
Former Bruin himself,
right? And Dan Duva, who's going to go with radio, he is the Syracuse AHL play-by-play guy. So these are all kind of young guys. I mean, it's a great. I'm really happy for them. I think this is a great thing, and they've all done their time for sure. And I think Gosher is really good. So I think it's going to be great. But there's an interesting thing that goes on with my opinion, with an expansion team and their play-by-play guys. And, you know, this is why I was always such a big fan of the Pete Weber signing in Nashville, because you want to get somebody he's going to be teaching the game to a lot of people.
Right.
You know, Dave Gosher, this for us in Philadelphia, it was Gene Hart taught us the game. You know, we grew up here. He was the one who taught us the game. And that, you know, was so vital towards building the fan base around the Flyers that Gene Hart never gets the credit that he deserves for that. But he was hugely important, and as has, you know, very much Pete Weber been, you know, out there, and Pete Weber before in LA, you know, was the same kind of thing. So, you know, this is going to be an issue. I mean, I think I'm happy for all these guys. I'm just wondering if it's I can't think of anybody else who's out there like who they could have gotten like a Pete Weber. There aren't that many people like that exist right now. So, but I do think it's you know, it's good to see the Knights have their guys, and again, Boston gets they lose their radio guy, unfortunately, in this situation as well.
That's all right.
Yeah.
There's plenty of guys in that market. They'll get somebody.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, sort of deviating from that, but talking about expansion.
Yep.
There was a report on Sportsnet yesterday that I found fairly intriguing because the talk of that Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley was asked about expansion, not to Seattle, but to Kansas City, and that Lamar Hunt Jr., who the son of the owner of the family that owns the Kansas City Chiefs, is interested in bringing an NHL expansion franchise to Kansas City. And we know that the building is already built there. It's been probably gathering dust the last few years.
No, they use it.
10 years. Actually, the building's 10. I think it was open Sprint Center was open in 2007. So it's 10 years old already. Right.
And it was built by AEG. So you've got that connection to the NHL as well. So, I mean, honestly, are we going to go down the road of the Atlanta Flames again? Because it did not work in Kansas City. Yes, it was 40 years ago, but it didn't work. And now,
let's connect the dots. Connect the dots here. So, all right, we know that Gary Bettman has a friend in that market.
Yep.
Lamar Hunt Jr. aside, he owns that building. That's all the connection you need. But I do play softball with a guy from Kansas City and had a long conversation with him about hockey in that arena, and they did put an ECHL team there this year. That's probably a tester to see how it's going to be. Now, I don't think they will get an expansion franchise. I think they will get a team that's in trouble that needs to move overnight. Right. That's what I think they'll get, and I think that's what they're sort of softening things up to.
Right. For the last 10 years, they basically have been negotiating.
And we know also that if you want to look at also with the AHL, there was that question as well with St. Louis. St. Louis does have an AHL lockdown affiliate because of their situation with Vegas going to Chicago.
Right.
Wolves.
Right.
So a lot of people figured maybe that St. Louis wanted to go to Kansas City, and the AHL said they weren't going to do it, at least not for this, for the upcoming season.
Not this year.
Not this year. So that kind of blocks things off there for another year for Kansas City in terms of having. So they have an ECHL team. Might have had an AHL team, and it would have been a natural fit there for St. Louis to send their prospects. But AHL didn't want to do it, so it kind of keeps things in limbo for now.
Well, and this news came out the same day that a vote happened in Seattle, a vote that, by the way, went 8-0 in favor of the redevelopment of the Key Arena. So now we're talking about, we're talking about Seattle being on the path. We're talking about Kansas City potentially being on the path. And we're not even mentioning Quebec City, who's got the brand new building. So, I mean, I know one franchise, Arizona, that's in trouble. There's room for another expansion franchise to make it 32. But where's the other team?
Well, the Islanders aren't settled yet, Mike. I just read another report this morning where I guess a study that they're doing on the new place isn't sort of coming through. And so, again, I go back to living on Long Island, watching all the bureaucracy until something is signed and ground is broken and things are being built.
Right.
I am always skeptical about a new arena there.
And it's a leap. It's not a giant leap, but it's a leap. But if the situation in Queens/Long Island regarding the Islanders is not settled when it comes around September, October, they're starting the season, and John Tavares is out there looking for stability and looking for answers of where the organization is going. And if they're not providing any, does Garth Snow say, okay, I've got to trade this guy because he's not going to sign here with everything in question? And I don't know if he's going to sign there if they don't know where they're going to be or what they're going to do when he's a free agent next July. I don't know.
They are definitely playing both sides of the fence with Tavares right now. I hear Tavares' side saying things like, well, Toronto's got a lot of friends there. I'd like to play there. That would be great. Why not play in Toronto? Detroit would be a good place for him to play too. He's got friends there. And then I hear things from the Islanders of like, oh, we're working on this deal. We're already working on it. So don't worry. It's going to get done. It's just a matter of when. So it kind of feels like it's either going – if either happens, I wouldn't be shocked. Like if suddenly we saw a press release, Tavares signs extension with the Islanders tomorrow, I wouldn't be shocked. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if the trade rumors did start up in earnest as well. I don't think the Islanders moving, though, has anything to do with Tavares one way or the other, because I think that That's bigger than any player. That situation, especially with the way the NHL looks at that, it's going to take a lot to move the Islanders out.
It's bigger than any. It's bigger than any player. I agree, Yak. But what I'm saying is, from the Tavares perspective,
it plays into it for Tavares.
If things are not settled, I mean, that's one in the column of I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah, but the owners of this team are looking in terms of. I mean, they're just trying to get negotiations going here. They just want to get things working, and the NHL does not want the Islanders to leave Long Island at all. That's
no, of course, but again, you do get to a point where a league can't do everything to keep a team in a market. They can't make anybody build. They can't make anybody invest. Like, it's just sometimes it gets to the point where there's nothing they can do.
No, there
is that point. It's hard to believe, but they might.
They could get to that point. You're right. I mean, I think that they won't, because I think that there's still room to move on each side on this thing, and I think they know it. I think we're looking at more of we need a deadline type thing going on here. We need someone to throw some deadline out there. It feels like a lockout type thing where where it's going to go. It's going to go to Queens. They're going to go to Queens. That's where it's going to be.
They have to pass some new laws there, though. It's not a slam dunk. They can't just simply build there. There was an article that said there's things there's hurdles there.
Right. But they don't seem like lighthouse project hurdles. Like they don't. I mean, to me, there are definitely hurdles, and Long Island can go as you live there, Russ. Like the politics of Long Island is about as predictable as.
We thought the lighthouse project was a fait accompli. No, it wasn't.
Right. It's still no. I think it's a real issue. I mean, on Kansas City for a second though, they really have been used for like the better part of a decade by the NHL and by NHL owners as well. We could always go to Kansas City. They've got a building there already, and I mean, St. Louis used it big time. Arizona used it at one point. Before Atlanta moved to Winnipeg, they used it too. I mean, just
think about this. In 2018-19, which is right down the road now, Barclays Center can say, Islanders, we appreciate you playing here. We no longer want you here.
True. No, they can. And they can. I just think that I have a hard time believing the NHL won't figure out a way of stepping in and making something else happen. They do have some power in that area. The NHL. The problem with taking the Islanders off of Long Island is what the hell happens to the Islanders fans, because I've talked to people about that. Are Islanders fans going to become Rangers fans now? I mean, remember, it took a while for.
No, they will not become Ranger fans. No,
right. They'll become Devils fans probably.
No, they'll go away.
They'll go away, and there's
Brooklyn Dodger fans. Not all of them, because some of them became LA Dodger fans. Some of them became Met fans. Some of them went away.
There are too many of them for the NHL to let them go away. I mean, this is not, and they're too riled up of a group. This is not. I mean, just running a hockey website that has 30 teams involved. I can tell you the Islanders fans are in the top 10 of the most engaged fans in the NHL, and that's. We're not, when you talk about other teams moving, like Florida or Arizona.
They're also sick of stadium situations. I was just on the island a week ago and talking to people about it. They're sick of it.
Yeah. I mean, they are. Of course they are. No, and they should be. I mean, obviously, it's played them. It's hurt them. There's no question about it. It's hurt their ability to attract people in there. It's hurt their ability to sign Tavares long term. All that is true. But as far as the NHL actually getting to the point where the NHL doesn't strike some kind of deal with somebody to keep them on Long Island, I have a really hard time. I think that they will. This team has too much of a history. 4 Stanley Cups means a lot of people, a lot of people who care about this team, a whole lot of people. And they do. And they really are. They really are that passionate about this group. So I don't know. I mean, Kansas City, though, to finish with Kansas City for a second, I know somebody. I once talked to an older player who I won't mention his name, but he played for the Atlanta Flames and he played for the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, so he played for both of those teams. And I talked to him one time about the concept.
Wait, you mean the Scouts?
What was that?
The Scouts.
You mean the Scouts?
I can't say Scouts. Sorry, I can't say Scouts. Right, not the Chiefs. Sorry, he wasn't a football. He wasn't a football hockey guy. No,
the Charlestown Chiefs he played for.
And I played for the Kansas City Scouts.
Right, that's like Mark Alton, his father.
Right. You guys all know him, but he played for the Atlanta Flames. He played for the Kansas City Scouts. And that was a long time ago, granted. So it's hard to really say it's fair to say what kind of hockey town either could be. But Atlanta sort of did repeat itself as far as the way it goes. But he said Atlanta was 20 times better of a hockey town than Kansas City. And he's at Kansas City was really hard, and that was a long time ago, like I said. So why I bring this up is I do know a lot of people in Kansas City. I do think they could have an NHL team, but I think that the problem is the NHL is a group that has these, like I've said many times, they'll give you one sentence. Okay, there's one sentence that it defines you, and for Kansas City, it is still the scouts at the highest level of the NHL. And that's a hard thing to get rid of. It sucks for Kansas City, but it's a hard thing to get rid of. And
yeah, that's like saying the Cleveland Barons next.
Right.
The Oakland Seals next.
I know, exactly. And that's what you look at when it all is said and done, right? I mean, they just really, this is the way the NHL works, and they have people who are still around, like Colin Campbell's of the world. They're still around that have been through all of this and have definite predetermined concepts. And as much as Gary, I think that if Kansas City was going to get a team, I can't help but think they would have gotten one by now.
Well, the one thing, I mean, go ahead, Russ. Go ahead.
I'm just thinking, well, I think that's true. I think now when you're like a commissioner of a sport, especially like hockey, the NFL doesn't have this problem. You have to think 2-3 steps ahead. So I think you have to have places on tap that can be hockey market if you need them to be.
And that is how Kansas City will get a team. If they get a team, excuse me, that's how they'll get a team, because something else went awry.
Yeah.
And where else can they have the arena, they have all this stuff already set together.
Well, you're running out of excuses when it comes to Quebec City, because now the Canadian dollar is starting to get stronger again. The exchange now is about 20% instead of being 25%. So things being cyclical, they'll probably get down to around 10%, and then will fluctuate. But that excuse is out the door. The only excuse then is you don't want to give another NHL team to Canada. And I think that's crap, because I think, Quebec City was a great rivalry with Montreal. I think there's enough of a fan base there for things to work. The only problem is a team would probably have to, if it was a team to move to Quebec City, would probably have to be, in the eastern, east of the Mississippi. So that means like a Florida or a Carolina or the Islanders. And I don't know if anybody is really close to being desperate enough to have to move out of it.
It's a cost perspective too, Mike, in terms of going from west to east. Although I could logically see a Western team coming east just to equalize out the conferences if you get to 32. So that's what I would have to look at there. But
I think Columbus could end up back in the West, to be honest. I think because I think the most important thing with them would be money, not a matter of balancing out the conferences. And I really think that at the end of the day, I think Quebec has a team whenever they want it. I really do feel that way. I've talked to enough people that I really feel like they could have had a team with Vegas. They decided not to at that point. And I think the plan was.
I'm sorry. I found some of the hurdles. So there's a website called I just also saw the first is the request for proposals due in September, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what this website is reporting, and it could very well be true, because they say the proposal could cost $1 million. Just to put it in, to submit it for a new stadium, that is like the fee to do it. So you have to be pretty sure you're going to get this to put up $1 million.
Petty cash.
It's not petty cash anymore.
Until the NHL comes to them and says,
"Well, not me, not me, please."
No, I just mean even for a company.
The NHL goes and says, "We'll put that money up," or I could very easily say, this is all politics. So it's like an extension could be filed that this goes another 90 days or whatever in December. All of this stuff feels, what I think happens on the island.
We're less than 2 years out, and they have to build something. That is not going to be an easy trick, even if they signed it in September.
No, you're right about all that, and I think that that's a really legitimate concern. I just also think that in what feels like, and I don't know Long Island as well as you do, but but following the Lighthouse Project, which I followed a lot because I wrote a lot about it.
Me too.
And you did too, and and BD Gallup did a great job covering it back in the day with us too.
Yeah.
That it feels like that the politics on the island are terrible unless it's something that everybody wants. And that there were issues with the Lighthouse Project where there was a group of people who really didn't want it. I haven't found the group of people who really don't want the Queen's Arena yet.
No, it's not that. Right. I agree with you. I think, and look, ultimately, I think the Lighthouse thing was killed on both sides. But But with this one, it's different because basically we're just talking about, hey, let's build the place. And the Islanders are like, yeah, we want a place. But the Islanders haven't really said, hey, we'll put up any kind of funding or any kind of private funds or anything. We don't see any of that. Like, if you remember when the Mets built their Citi Field, they put up some funds on their own. We don't see the Islanders group offering that up. So if you're going to put this to strict public use as far as getting the money from the public, that's a tougher sell in New York because Long Island is like the second highest tax county in the country.
Right. No, it is definitely a tougher sell. And you're right about that. I think they're going to have to put money up. I always go back to an airplane trip I took to the Vancouver Olympics, where I sat for some reason with a whole bunch of Charles Wang's people on there forever. And I talked to them about a lot of things that were off the record at the time, but it's so long ago. And they always said to me at that time, they said, eventually this will be in Queens. He knows it. He knows how to make it work. He knows what will happen. So yeah, it's just I don't know. There are so many. There's so many things that have to happen, but politics being what they are. Charles is going to have to pay for a good part of the arena.
Charles is not even the majority owner, though.
I know he's not, but his group is good. I know he's a really small owner, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Islanders group is going to have to pay for the arena, and they're going to have to pay for the arena wherever they go. So that's the difference. I mean, it's not like that doesn't change, unless
but that's not true because if they were going to Kansas City, they would just be renting it.
Or Quebec.
Yeah.
But where there already are arenas, I do think the NHL has told. I think part of the deal with Quebec, just from talking to a lot of people, this is totally speculative, putting things together in my head. It feels like part of the deal with Quebec was they went to Quebec and years ago they said, and I remember where I first heard this story reported to me was covering the 2010 U.S. Olympic practices in Chicago. I was told at that point by somebody else who was there that the NHL had sat down with people of Quebec and said, build an arena, we will guarantee you'll bring a team to you. And that was from a very, very good source, the NHL. So then the arena started being built and really, really soon after that. I have also been told that the NHL wants the team there for sure. They definitely want the team there. The governors want the expansion money from them. That's 100% true.
Right.
And that's that there's no way in the world that they want a team moving to Quebec. Because moving a team to Quebec is the way it all works out tax-wise is different. Even if they get a transfer fee, it's not as good as an expansion fee for whatever reason. Right. I don't understand taxes, but that's what they've told me. So they're going to get their money, and so it's just a matter of when they want to do it. And I think that's going to happen. And I think that's the 32nd team. Now whether somebody else moves from another place, that's very possible. We could see. We still don't know what's Carolina we have for a brief period of time seemed to have reached something, but that's still
Carolina seems safe
for now.
For now,
Arizona, the sale. I mean, we're still kind of things are not finished with that yet, and it's moving at a very glacial pace.
Yes,
very glacial.
No, it's been pretty crazy. But
where are the Coyotes going to play next year?
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? That no one seems.
Yeah, and that's a factor here because the lease that they have in Glendale, they can renew for one more year, and then they don't have an agreement. And you're not going to have a new building built in a year. So potentially this could be the last year. I mean, we've been saying this forever, but this could be the last year in Arizona for the Coyotes. But what is good? I mean, that's why Kansas City might make sense because it's ready-made. There's a building there. You can move in, and that's all you need to do. Seattle, it's going to take probably a couple years to redevelop the key arena. Yeah. I mean, it's either Kansas City or Quebec where they can move right away.
Yeah,
and we got to take Vegas in the mix here now. They do now have a pretty strong outpost now in the Southwest. Now that's another factor. Now again, it was Arizona. That was it. Now Vegas is there. If things aren't working out in Arizona, I mean, that's where you could potentially see them move in this case. They at least have that outpost now that they might not have had before.
Yeah, I mean, we kept hearing about this new arena deal with Arizona in June. Yeah. We're now into August. We don't hear anything, and they've got a lease issue.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you another place that might actually that people don't talk about at all, but I know the NHL has considered it a couple times. Is Houston. And I always feel is that the one team that has to do crazy amounts of traveling that people don't really seem to realize is the Dallas Stars. The Stars they travel they have to fly to every place they go, right? There's no options. They're flying at least 2 hours everywhere they go.
You know what would have to happen there, Act? There would probably have to be a realignment of the divisions to have more of a north-south aspect to it than because, I mean, you could conceivably put like San Jose in the division with the Western Canadian teams, where like LA, Arizona, Vegas, Dallas, Houston. If there was a team in Houston, that might make more sense. Now, there will always be somebody who's the oddball who's left out and is going to have to travel a lot, but that might be the way that they would have to go if that happened.
Yeah. Well, I went to college in Houston and I was down there for a year, and the Arrows were there, and I never really heard about them on the campus in school and on TV. You'd hear some stuff, but and Russ, it's a very transient city. It's like Atlanta in the sense that there's a lot of people who live in Houston who are not from Houston. So, maybe that's a good thing, because if there are people from the Northeast that have moved down there that are hockey fans, but to use the old adage, the people who have moved there are probably the people who moved because they didn't like hockey. So no, actually, you know what? I take it back. The Arrows weren't there when I was there. So
yeah, I was gonna say, how the hell old are you?
No. But the thing is, I'm looking up their attendance now. So let's see how their attendance, even though they've changed a little bit as a city, like I hear their best attendance was a little over 7,000. Like, they're not the greatest sports city.
No, they aren't.
That's the problem with it. They do great for college, and they do fairly well now with with football. But when I went to, like, football back in the day, the Oilers, they didn't always draw well.
No,
so I don't know.
No, they didn't. That's always and the Astros too. They've had troubles too. So
the Astros, I think, it's settled in, but you're right. They've had troubles too.
Well, in the Astrodome days.
This commercial is brought to you by Oscar Mayer.
So, Phil Kessel, hot dog, Stanley Cup.
Hi, Phil.
I mean, just like this is what's great about the Stanley Cup, and this is what's
Good one, Randy. Good one.
People don't realize, like, I don't think enough. A sense of humor that Phil Kessel has, like, it's pretty.
It's great.
It's pretty good. I mean, it really is. Like, he does not shy about this kind of stuff, and he's not shy about, like, his own reputation. Like, he doesn't care. It's really
I'm sure Maple Leaf fans loved his sense of humor when he was basically stealing $8 million from the Leafs organization. But
he wasn't stealing.
I'm just kidding.
But here's the thing. In reality.
Grind that X, Michael.
He should sign a deal with Heber National. It would be great. He could sell a lot of hot dogs. The guy's winning cups, right? So for as long as he's winning cups, he'll play along with the joke and just be laughing all the way. And I like that.
The spokesman for Goldens. Yes,
100% right about that one. I couldn't agree with you more.
Now, couple things here. 12:01 tonight is the official deadline for the NCAA free agents. So we talked about Will Butcher yesterday. Alex Kerfoot is the other prominent from Harvard, the other prominent free agent. And Russ, there's some speculation that there's some lobbying going on from his former teammate Jimmy Vesey to bring him in with the Rangers. What do you think?
I mean, they were a good combination. They really were a good line combination. I don't know if that same magic would happen at the NHL level, because I think Kerfoot's a really good player. He's a really good skater. He can make some things happen. There is some offense in his game. He's pretty greasy. I don't know, though. I don't know how it's going to translate to the next level. I think he could play in the NHL, but I think Vesey, who has the ability to possibly be a second liner, I don't necessarily see in Kerfoot. But if they wanted to experiment and bring him there and put them both on the third line together, I don't see a problem with that. I think there's something to it.
No.
Would he be a star for the Rangers? I don't think so. I mean, Vesey's close to being a star. Kerfoot is a level down from Vesey as a player.
And on Butcher, Ted Kulfin of the Detroit News wrote an article this morning and gave a list of teams that are in pursuit of Butcher. And it's some of the teams that we mentioned yesterday, Russ: Pittsburgh, Chicago, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, New Jersey, and Detroit. I think most of those teams have spaces available to be able to play.
Minnesota might not.
Yeah, Minnesota might not, but
one.
But he's from Wisconsin. That was, I guess, why one of the reasons why that might appeal to him.
Colorado wasn't in the mix, Mike. I mean, obviously you go off of Colfin's list here, but Colorado was not another.
No. I mean from what the indications are, they told him basically before he won the Hobie Baker, they told him they didn't think he was going to be an NHLer, and
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's typical of the way the Colorado organization has been run. They draft this kid if they just keep him in the loop and say we're going to give you a contract. He goes out, hits, and wins the Hobie Baker, and they have openings. They could have had, him probably as a top 4 defenseman this year with them going through what I think is a rebuild. But now they essentially rejected him and didn't even make him an offer. And now, I mean, I would think that's the 31st place he would go to.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I agree too. Quick other rumor. I want another rumor before we get out of here. Dan Wallace is a good rumor today. Has a good take on the Montreal Canadiens Minnesota Wild rumor, which is out there right now.
Okay.
And this is really interesting. This is the Charlie Coyle to the Montreal Canadiens rumor, which I've been hearing now. It's basically the rumor is Coyle for Plekanec, Shaw, and Dano. And it is absolutely ridiculous. But
yes.
And he goes through why it is ridiculous. But Coyle this is one of those rumors that comes out of Montreal this time of year, of course, but I just wanted to address it as something.
I mean, look, Charlie Coyle is a more talented Mike McCarron. Like, he's everything McCarron, unfortunately, not going to be at the NHL level, where he's a big guy, he can score goals, he can be a force at times, and even Coyle has yet to put it all together, but he's showing pretty good signs. I mean, at the end of the day, does Minnesota really want Andrew Shaw? Like, Andrew Shaw has, to me, dropped a lot in the last couple of years in play.
And at the price of taking Plekanec's $6 million a year contract, which is one of the worst deals out there.
A horrible deal.
And okay, how many more forwards who are playing the wing right now? Now Coyle keeps going back between center and wing, but they've already got Galchenyuk, they've already got Drouin, and if you made this deal and you added Coyle, you have 3 wingers who can play center but really can't play center. How many more?
I think with Montreal, if that, not to say the deal would happen, but that's the intention. Coyle would be put in play. He would be a centerman for them.
Yeah,
I think it'd have to be. Yeah. So it's just something to look into. But I look so far. I found nothing to it. But the only interesting thing here is I do know that Minnesota likes Dano a lot, more than maybe some people do. So for that's. Dano is a first.
He got rushed, and I'm not sure he's ever going to come out of that now.
That's the big key, right? So we don't know, but he does have some potential there.
He does.
Shaw is has shown that he can win in the playoffs, that kind of thing. Whatever he's part of, whatever Shaw is. I agree with you.
I don't even know what he is now.
Yeah, I don't know what he is exactly either, but
he's a third line winger. He's an energy guy. He's being paid. He's being paid to be probably a top 6.
$1 million player, yeah. So.
Right, and he really isn't a top 6. He's a professional shit disturber, and there is a need for players like that on teams, but I think there's enough of that on Montreal right now, and they're so strong on the wings, but they're weak up the middle, and they can afford to trade a Shaw to bolster themselves up the middle.
I mean, Shaw didn't even have a point in the playoffs.
No.
Yeah, that was a really big problem, because that's where you expect to get him, right? That's where you expected to get more out of Shaw in the playoffs. Sure. Finally, Alexei Marchenko, the Maple Leafs, going back to Russia.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but we didn't know. I mean, the indications were there yesterday, and looking at the situation, the Leafs were looking to open up contract space. They were at 49 contracts. More than likely, Marchenko was either going to get waived to the AHL or be their 7th or 8th defenseman. He goes. Igor Urenko, who's a Russian reporter, who is reporting that Marchenko is signing a 3-year deal with CSKA Moscow. So, and that means he's going to probably play in the Olympics for Team Russia, because he played for them in the World Cup of Hockey. For the Leafs, I think this is an indicator that they're in on Butcher, like Colfin reported, or there are, I'd say, 2 or 3 guys who they could invite in on a professional tryout, one of them being Roman Polak, maybe Dennis Wideman, possibly Cody Franz, and all right-hand shot defensemen, and they only have 2 righty defensemen right now. So I'd
have to think Butcher's at the top of the list there if they can get him. Yeah.
I mean, Mike, don't worry. I mean, it turns out, Mike, just so you know, those odds that I was reading yesterday came out of Vegas, even though we were reading them from a different Twitter handle. And the Leafs are 14-1, so obviously Vegas isn't worried about them losing Marchenko.
Well, and one thing about Butcher that it might be completely meaningless, but it also could mean something. The Leafs signed a kid out of the University of Denver, Trevor Moore, to an entry-level deal last year, and Tyler Bozak, who was a University of Denver alum, was integral in getting him signed. He helped get them. Butcher was his teammate at Denver. It's flimsy. I think it's more that Lou Lamoriello is a guy who loves to pursue NCAA.
That's what it boils down to.
I think they have a better chance of signing Will Butcher than they had to sign Jimmy Vesey, because now you've got Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and Babcock, and the team making the playoffs. And you look at that and say, this is a team on the come. It's not like Chicago, where I think they're maybe on this downslope.
Yeah, Toronto, but Patrick Kane's going to talk to him, and it's like great American players. I mean, Austin Matthews, hey, he's got a lot of cachet, but he doesn't have Patrick Kane cachet.
That's true.
And Vesey's a buddy. Like, there's going to be all this drawing. Yeah. We're not going to hear from Butcher for like 2 weeks, I bet.
You think it's going to take that long? I think it'll be less than a week.
Nah, I think it'll be longer.
Okay, we'll see.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us.
Thanks, Zach.
And also, if you're out there on the patreon.com/hockey, make sure you get a lot of people have sent in your addresses to check out the post. There's a post for a special email address to send. It's on patreon.com/hockey to send in your address and your sizes for our HockeyBuzzcast t-shirt. Please, we would love for you guys to also, any of you who are watching this who feel like you get anything out of this, to go to patreon.com/hockey and help support the show for like $1 a month or anything that you can do.
I take a large, Jack.
Yeah, we'll get you large. Everybody does the show at least gets a t-shirt. That's the only way you get paid. But that is something. It is something. Yeah, there you go. We're not SB Nation after all. Remember without the buzz.
Wow.
Remember without the buzz, it's just
get that one shot in.
Talk to you soon. See you tomorrow.
Right under the collar there.